The pact started as a joke. We were sitting in a half-empty dive bar in late December, killing time before the ball drop, drinking $4 whiskey sodas and trying not to look like the two loneliest guys in the city. I had just been ghosted by a guy that first met on Hinge, and Drew had found out his ex was already engaged to someone he swore was just a friend. So yeah, we weren't exactly thriving. Somewhere between drink 3 and 4, Drew raised his glass and said, "Let's swear off love next year." Actually, cold turkey. No dating, no falling, just vibes. I snorted. "You think we can go a whole year without getting emotionally attached?" He shrugged. "We already do that. Might as well make it official." I reached across the sticky table and clinked his glass. "Fine. Deal. 1 year. No closeness that turn into something. No ex-texting. No romantic bullshit. We're friends, not fools." He laughed, that low, raspy chuckle he only does when he's tipsy. "To being heartless bastards. To emotional celibacy." We both downed our drinks like it was communion. At the time, I didn't think twice about it. Drew and I had known each other since college. Close enough to share secrets, not close enough to ruin things. We'd always hovered in that weird space between intimacy and distance. Hugs lasted a little too long, our texts had more inside jokes than necessary, and every now and then, a drunken night ended with us passed out on the same couch, shoulder to shoulder. But it never crossed the line. Until it did. It started slow. In January, we were each other's New Year detox buddies. Sunday hikes. Midweek ramen. No dates, just us. He'd text, and I'd find myself clearing my schedule. In February, he sent me a Valentine's meme of a raccoon eating heart-shaped candy alone. I laughed, then mailed him a dumb card that said, "Glad you're not my ex." By March, I realized he was the first person I wanted to tell when I got a new job. When I called, he said, "Come over, I'll make pasta." I went. And I didn't leave until morning. Nothing happened that night, technically. We stayed up late on his couch watching reruns of New Girl, and when I started to nod off, he didn't move. I woke up to him snoring softly next to me, his head barely grazing my shoulder. I should have pulled away. Instead, I stayed. That became a pattern. The sleepovers, the low lighting, the silence between jokes. One night in May, I noticed the way his eyes lingered on my mouth while I was mid-rant about a bad client. It knocked the air out of me. We didn't talk about it. Because we had a pact. That stupid, meaningless, made-up pact. Then July came, and with it, his birthday. We went away for the weekend, just the two of us. A cabin rental in upstate New York. Bonfire, booze, no cell service. It should have been fine. We were friends. We were pros at this. But something about that night, it shifted. We were lying on the deck, staring at the stars, drunk but not wasted. His hand brushed mine. He didn't pull back. Neither did I. "I was thinking," he said quietly, "maybe the pact's kind of bullshit." I turned to look at him. "You saying you want out?" He shrugged, but I could see the tension in his jaw. "I don't know. Maybe it's not that simple." I wanted to ask what he meant. I wanted to say something honest. But instead, I made a joke. Should have gotten it in writing, like a prenup for emotions. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. We went to bed in separate rooms that night, but neither of us really slept. The next morning, everything was normal again, until it wasn't. And the night we finally broke the pact, it didn't happen the way I expected. It happened when I least wanted it to, when I was at my worst. And when he showed up, I realized just how far we'd already fallen. The night it happened, I was sitting on the floor of my apartment, wearing the same hoodie I'd been in for 2 days, surrounded by Chinese takeout containers and unanswered emails. My laptop was open, but the screen was just a blur of ignored tasks. I'd bombed a client pitch that morning, froze halfway through the Zoom and completely blanked. Total silence. Just me, blinking like an idiot, while 4 executives waited for something smart to come out of my mouth. When the call ended, I didn't move for 20 minutes. Then I ordered egg rolls, poured a whiskey, and shut the world out. I was somewhere between self-pity and drunken apathy when Drew knocked. I didn't even remember texting him, but apparently I had. He came in with a 6-pack under one arm and that face. Concern disguised as sarcasm. "Jesus," he said, stepping over a crushed fortune cookie. "You look like a raccoon that lost a custody battle." I groaned, face buried in my hands. Why do you still talk to me? Because I'm loyal, he said, plopping down next to me and cracking open a beer. And because you're a good time when you're falling apart. I glanced at him. He looked like he always did. Slightly wrinkled t-shirt, messy hair, that faint scruff he never fully committed to shaving. Familiar, comfortable, dangerous. He handed me a beer without asking. What happened? I gave him the rundown. Messed up the pitch, felt like shit, hated everything. Probably gonna die alone, surrounded by expired soy sauce packets. He nodded solemnly. Yeah, that tracks. You're supposed to say I'm being dramatic. You are, but also you're kind of a mess right now, I sighed, leaning back against the couch. We made a deal. No romantic entanglements, remember? You're not allowed to comfort me. It's emotionally suggestive. He laughed. I'm not comforting you. I'm witnessing the wreckage. We sat there in silence for a while, both sipping beer, surrounded by greasy takeout and the soft hum of the city outside. My apartment was too quiet. Always was. Drew filled the space without trying. You want to watch something? I asked, just to say something. Sure. Something dumb. We landed on Sharknado. Because that's the kind of night it was. Somewhere between the second tornado and the third improbable shark attack, I realized he was lying closer than before. Not touching, not inappropriate, just closer. And I didn't move. I should have. I thought about it, made a mental note to shift away, create space, honor the pact. But my body stayed still, like it wanted to see what would happen. Then he did something small. Something stupidly insignificant that made my chest feel tight. He reached over and plucked a piece of lint off my hoodie. That was it. Just that tiny motion. That stupid, meaningless, gentle motion. But his hand lingered. Not long. Barely a second. But I felt it. And he knew I felt it. Neither of us said anything. The movie kept playing. Sharks kept flying through the air. But we were no longer watching. Not really. Eventually, the movie ended, and neither of us moved. The credits rolled, and we just sat there in the flickering TV light, pretending the silence wasn't saying more than we wanted it to. Then he spoke. I think we broke the pact. I stared ahead, jaw clenched. We didn't do anything. He shifted. Yeah, but come on, we've been doing things all year. I stayed quiet. I think I started breaking it the night you called me crying after your first freelance job flopped, he said. You remember? I came over with ice cream and pretended not to notice you were hiding your face in the blanket. I swallowed. That doesn't count. And when I brought you soup when you got COVID, you didn't come inside. Yeah, he said, but I sat outside your door for 2 hours. He turned to look at me. You know what counts, right? I finally met his eyes. That weekend at the lake. His expression softened. Yeah? That one. I knew what he meant. The trip had been a blur of grilled food, swims in cold water, too much wine, and long quiet nights. But one night, just one, he'd come into my room at 2 a.m., not saying anything, just laid on the bed beside me and passed out, or at least pretended to. I didn't sleep a second, his breath on my neck, the occasional twitch of his fingers when he got too close, that unbearable warmth that only comes when someone's just inches away from being something else. That night cracked the wall. We patched it. But it never fully held again. Now, months later, he was looking at me like he wanted to finish what we'd never started. I laughed, but it came out wrong. So what now? Drew leaned back on his elbows, legs stretched out, his head tilted toward the ceiling like he was doing the math in his head. Maybe we stop pretending it didn't already happen, he said. Define it. This, he said. Us. The weird tension. The late-night calls. The jealousy when you mention other guys. All of it. I'm not jealous, he grinned. Liar. I didn't respond. He sat up, brushing his hands on his jeans. I'm not saying we have to do anything. He paused. I've been wondering what it would feel like to stop fighting it. My chest was so tight it felt like my ribs were welded shut. Drew, I know, he said quickly. I know we said no falling in love this year, but I think I already did. I think I already did. He said it so casually, like he was admitting he liked oat milk more than regular milk now, like it wasn't a sentence that would split the night wide open. I blinked at him. You think? He smiled. Small, lopsided. Okay, I know. The room felt like it tilted slightly. Not in a cinematic, romantic way. In a very real, heart-thudding, what the hell do we do now kind of way. Drew had always been bold, but not like this. Not with me. He was the kind of guy who flirted with waiters, who made everything look effortless, but he'd never aimed any of that at me in a way I couldn't write off as friendly, until now. Until this. And it would have been so easy to say it back, because if I was honest, and God, I hated how honest this moment made me feel, I'd been halfway in love with him since college. Since he defended me in a group project when everyone else blamed me for missing a deadline I didn't even know existed. Since he started waiting for me after lectures just to walk me to my car. Since he laughed at jokes I didn't finish telling. Since all those times he looked at me like I was more than background noise, and I pretended I didn't see it. But none of that mattered now because of one thing. We had a rule, I said, barely above a whisper. He tilted his head. You really care about the rule? I did. That's not an answer. I bit the inside of my cheek. I could feel myself starting to panic, and I hated that he could probably see it. I cared about the rule because it made things simple. Drew leaned forward, his voice lower now. Yeah, well, I'm tired of simple. I don't want to be your safe option. I don't want to be the guy you hang out with because it's easy. I looked at him, really looked at him. He wasn't joking anymore. This wasn't the flirty, sarcastic Drew I was used to. This was the version I barely got to see, the one who didn't hide behind snark or humor, the one who said what he actually meant and didn't blink when the silence got too long. I never thought you were just easy, I said. But? I exhaled. But I didn't want to lose you. That stopped him for a beat. Is that really what this is about? He asked. You're afraid if we try something and it goes to shit, we won't be us anymore? Yes, I said. No hesitation. Because I know how this goes. I've done the whole best friends to something more thing before, and when it ended, it was like I lost two people at once. The person I was dating and the person I told everything to. He didn't say anything right away. Just stared at me, lips pressed into a tight line like he was fighting a dozen different responses, and none of them felt good enough. Finally, he said, I'm not them. I know. Then stop making me pay for what they did. That landed harder than I expected. Because he was right. I'd been lumping him in with everyone else who let me down. Every guy who said they'd stick around and didn't. Every almost relationship that fizzled into weird text silence. Every ghost, every flake, every slow burn that never caught fire. But Drew had never ghosted me. Never flaked, never disappeared. He was always there, always showing up. He showed up now. And I was the one holding back. I swallowed hard, the weight in my throat suddenly too much to ignore. Okay, I said. He frowned slightly. Okay, what? Okay, I want to try. But I'm scared as hell. His eyes softened. Me too. There was a long silence after that, the kind that felt heavier than anything we'd said. It was the silence of two people who had crossed a line and now had to live in whatever came next. He shifted a little closer, and then he touched my hand. Just lightly, not even a full grasp, just fingers brushing fingers. Can I kiss you? He asked. The question undid me, because no one ever asked. They just leaned in, assumed, took. But Drew, he asked. I nodded, and he kissed me. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't some mind-blowing cinematic movie score in the background kiss. It was better than that. It was real, gentle, hesitant, like both of us were afraid of scaring the moment away. Like we were still holding back the deeper parts of ourselves, unsure what would happen if we let it all out. His lips were warm. His hand slid around the back of my neck, thumb brushing the skin there like he was trying to memorize it. My heart was hammering, but everything else felt quiet. After a while, we pulled back. Not far, just enough to breathe. He smiled. So, Pact's officially dead, huh? I laughed, breathless. Guess we're two big hypocrites. He bumped his forehead against mine. Good, I was getting tired of pretending. And just like that, something shifted. We weren't just best friends anymore. And whatever came next, we couldn't go back. The next morning wasn't some grand romantic sunrise scene. There were no birds chirping, no soft music playing, no cinematic lighting. Just me waking up on the couch with a crick in my neck, a half-empty beer on the coffee table, and Drew still asleep next to me, his arm draped halfway across my chest like we were already something. Maybe we were. I lay there for a minute, staring at the ceiling, heart quietly pounding in that strange mix of, what the hell just happened? And do I want it to happen again? Because the truth was, the kiss changed everything. But not in the way I expected. It didn't make everything clearer. If anything, it complicated things. My feelings weren't new. But now they weren't hidden either. And the second something is said out loud or done, it can't be undone. Drew stirred beside me, mumbling something into my hoodie, and for a split second I debated closing my eyes and pretending I was still asleep. But instead I said, "Morning." He made a low groaning sound and buried his face deeper into my side. "Too early. It's 9. Ugh, you're the worst. You kissed me last night. Remember that before you start throwing insults." He chuckled, finally opening one eye to look at me. "You kissed me back. Fair." We stared at each other for a beat too long. "Are we going to talk about it?" I asked. Drew sighed, sitting up and rubbing his face. "Yeah, probably should. Just coffee first?" I got up to start the pot, trying to act normal. Trying to be chill. Trying not to replay every second of that kiss in my head while wondering what the hell came next. Drew leaned against the counter while it brewed, arms crossed, hair a mess, and still somehow looking frustratingly good for someone who just woke up on a couch. He didn't say anything right away, and neither did I. The silence stretched, not uncomfortable exactly, but filled with something new, something we'd never shared before. "I don't regret it," he finally said. I looked up. "Me neither. Cool, just making sure we're on the same page." He poured himself a mug, then added exactly 3 spoons of sugar like he always did. Same routine, same guy. But now he'd kissed me, and that fact kept echoing like a slow drumbeat in my head. "So what are we?" I asked, more careful than I wanted to be. He didn't flinch. "Honestly, I don't know yet, but I want to figure it out." There was a pause, and then he said, "If you want that too." I nodded. "I do. I need to take it slow." He gave me a crooked smile. "We've already been slow. We've basically been dating for a year without calling it that." I couldn't argue. "You're not wrong," I admitted. "But now that it's real, it feels different." He stepped closer. It was always real. The way he said it, so quietly, so simply, hit me harder than I expected. He was right. I could lie to myself and pretend this thing had only started the night before, but the truth was, it had started long before that, in all the little moments. The ones we laughed through, brushed off, ignored. This thing, whatever it was, had been building quietly, patiently. And now it had arrived. The first few weeks were weird. Not bad weird, just delicate. We didn't put labels on anything. We didn't tell anyone. We didn't post cute photos or change relationship statuses. It was just us, as usual, but with something new simmering underneath. He'd reach for my hand sometimes while we watched TV, and I'd let him. I started looking forward to his texts in a different way, the way you do when you know someone's thinking about you, not just checking in. There were kisses, slow, stolen ones when we were alone in the kitchen or walking back from late-night grocery runs. There was one on the subway, right before the doors opened, fast and ridiculous and full of adrenaline. But we didn't rush it. We didn't call it love. Not yet. Because we were both still scared. And some nights, I could feel that fear between us. The hesitation. The pause before he touched me like he was asking for permission. The way I pulled away too quickly sometimes, like I still didn't trust that this wouldn't fall apart. One night, 2 weeks in, we were lying in my bed after a movie. Not touching, not talking. The credits had rolled an hour ago, but neither of us had moved. I turned to him. "Are you scared?" He didn't pretend not to know what I meant. Yeah, me too. He shifted onto his side, facing me. But I'd rather be scared with you than pretend I don't feel this. My throat tightened. Even if it gets messy? He smiled faintly. Especially then. That night, we didn't kiss. We just fell asleep facing each other, breathing the same air, too close to fall apart. Then, about a month in, something cracked the bubble. We were at a mutual friend's birthday party. One of those backyard things with too much beer and people you only kind of know. We weren't being obvious, but we weren't avoiding each other either. He brushed my arm when he passed me a drink. I adjusted the collar of his shirt because it was flipped weird. Normal stuff, except I caught someone watching. His name was Jake, some guy Drew used to casually hook up with back before the pact, and he saw us. Saw me. Saw how Drew looked at me when I laughed too hard at something dumb. Later, in the kitchen, Jake cornered me. So, you two a thing now? I blinked. What? He smirked. You and Drew. It's kinda obvious. I didn't respond. He stepped a little closer. Just hope you know what you're getting into. Before I could ask what the hell that meant, he was gone. I didn't tell Drew. But it lingered. Because I didn't know what I was getting into. And for the first time since we kissed, I wondered if maybe this wasn't going to be as simple as I wanted it to be. I didn't bring it up that night, the Jake thing. I told myself it didn't matter. That he was just trying to stir shit, the way ex-flings always seem to do when they catch wind of something real forming where they used to be. But the words stuck to my brain like tar. Hope you know what you're getting into. What did that even mean? The next day, I tried to shake it off. Drew and I were supposed to grab coffee and walk through the park, a low-effort Sunday tradition we'd started last spring. We'd never labeled it as a date, but this time I felt it more than ever. The anticipation. The mental note I made to wear the hoodie he once said looked good on me. We met outside the coffee shop, and he handed me my usual without asking. Look at us, he said, grinning. Practically a married couple. I raised an eyebrow. Is this your way of proposing? Because you're going to need a ring and probably a witness. Relax, he said, nudging me with his elbow. We're still in the dating in secret phase. Gotta keep the mystery alive. We started walking, sipping our coffees. The park was busy with kids, couples, dogs that looked like their owners. It should have been a peaceful day. It was, kind of. Until I asked, too casually, so, you and Jake? He paused mid-sip. Wow. Going straight for the jugular, huh? I shrugged. He said something weird to me at the party last night. Drew's expression tightened slightly. What'd he say? Just made it sound like I should be careful with you, he groaned. God. Okay, look, Jake and I hung out a few times last year. It was casual. But he caught feelings, and I didn't. I tried to be clear, but you know how that goes. I nodded slowly. He wasn't a bad guy, Drew added, but I wasn't in a place to give him what he wanted. And when I backed off, he got kind of bitter. And now, he sighed, now I guess he's bitter and observant. I didn't want to be the guy who got insecure over a past closeness. But something about the way Drew talked about it, so effortlessly, so detached, made something twist in my gut. Not jealousy, exactly. Just discomfort. He made it sound like you're the type to bail when things get too real. Drew stopped walking. The air went still between us. And do you believe that? He asked quietly. I looked at him. Really looked. And the thing is, I didn't believe that. Not fully. But I also knew we'd built our entire friendship on never saying what we actually meant. On dancing around things. Avoiding real talk. So I told him the truth. I don't know yet. I'm trying to figure that out. He nodded slowly, pressing his lips together. Well, for what it's worth, I haven't run yet. And I've had plenty of chances. We kept walking. A little quieter this time. The rest of the week was a weird blur. Not tense, exactly. But something had shifted. Drew was still around, still texting, still showing up, still being him, but there was a new layer to everything now. Like we'd stepped into a room with thinner walls, and every sound felt amplified. One night, I caught him staring at me while I was making pasta. I was talking about something dumb, a meme I saw, maybe, and he just looked at me. Not in a flirty way, not in a joking way, just looked. and I knew something was coming. Sure enough, after we ate, he sat on the floor with his back against the couch, legs stretched out, beer in hand. "Can I ask you something kind of heavy?" he said. "Sure." "Do you actually want this? Like, us?" The question wasn't accusing, just honest. But it caught me off guard. I set my glass down. "I wouldn't be here if I didn't." "That's not what I mean." He looked at me then, eyes clearer than I'd seen in a long time. "I know how careful you are," he said. "I know I've been part of your comfort zone for a while, but now that we're more, I need to know if this is what you really want, or if it's just what's easy." His words weren't cruel. They weren't even demanding. They were just true. And he deserved an honest answer. So I gave it to him. "I'm scared out of my mind," I said, "but yeah, I want this. Not because it's easy, because it's you." He smiled faintly. "Okay, that's all I needed." And just like that, the air cleared. We didn't talk much after that, just curled up on the couch and let the silence be enough. But that night, as he was leaving, he kissed me slower than usual, like it meant something different now. And it did. We were in something now. It didn't have a name. It didn't need one yet. But it had weight. It had shape. And we were both finally acknowledging it. But comfort never lasts too long. A week later, Drew showed up to my place looking off, like he was trying to seem casual, but his body language was wrong. Tense, guarded. "What's up?" I asked. He walked past me, dropped onto the couch, ran a hand through his hair. "I got a message from Jake." My stomach dropped. "What did he say?" Drew pulled out his phone and read it aloud. "Hope your new boy knows about DC." I frowned. "DC?" He looked up at me, and I knew something was coming. I got offered a job. Months ago. In DC, I didn't take it then, but they reached out again last week. Made the offer again. More money, more responsibility. It's a big deal. I stared at him. "You weren't going to tell me? I didn't want to freak you out." "Well, too late for that," he stood. "I haven't made any decisions yet." I swallowed hard. "But you're thinking about it." He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Because silence is still an answer. And just like that, I felt the edges of everything start to tremble. Drew didn't stay long that night. After the DC bomb dropped, we both pretended to go through the motions. He helped me clean up dinner. We watched half of a dumb sitcom, but the words sat between us like a loaded gun. He didn't kiss me before he left, just gave me a soft night and shut the door behind him like he was trying not to wake something. But it was already awake. I barely slept. My mind kept spinning around the idea of him in another city. Not just another borough or neighborhood. Another life. One I wouldn't be a part of. Not in the same way. I'd never been the clingy type. I prided myself on giving people space, being low maintenance, never demanding anything that felt too heavy. But this wasn't just about space. This was about whether he wanted us enough to stay. And the scariest part? I wasn't sure if I wanted him to choose me over something that important. If I'd even ask him to. Because what did that make me? The next day I tried to keep it together. I went to work. I replied to emails. I even made a to-do list, like everything was fine. But my phone stayed silent, and every time it buzzed with something that wasn't Drew, my stomach dropped. He didn't text. Not until later that night. "Can I come by?" I stared at the screen for a full minute before replying. "Yeah." When he arrived, I already had tea on the stove, not out of some nurturing instinct, just something to do with my hands. He sat down at the table, jacket still on, eyes tired. We didn't talk for a few minutes, just sat there, the kettle gently humming between us. Finally, he broke the silence. "I didn't mean to drop it on you like that." I nodded, still stirring sugar into his mug. "I just didn't know how to bring it up," he added. I handed him the tea. "You said they offered before. Why didn't you take it then?" He looked down at his cup. "Because I didn't want to leave." I waited. But I thought maybe it was just me being scared. Of change. Of growing up. You know? I sat across from him. "And now?" "Now it feels like everything's different. But also, like, I don't know what I'm doing." His voice cracked just a little on the last part. Not dramatic. Just human. I exhaled. Drew, I'm not gonna guilt you into staying. I know, but I also can't pretend like it wouldn't wreck me if you left. His eyes snapped to mine. Something in his face softened, like he was surprised to hear me admit it. Don't, I added before he could speak. Don't say it's not a big deal. It is, to me, he nodded slowly. I've never had anything like this, I said, fingers clenched around my mug. I didn't think I ever would, so yeah, I'm scared too. Of you leaving, of us trying long distance and it falling apart, of pretending we're fine when we're not. He reached across the table, rested his hand over mine. I'm not sure what to do, he said. But I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you. It hit me how rare it was for him to say something that plain. Drew could be emotional, yeah, but usually only in jokes or deflections. This was different. What if we tried? I asked. If you took it? He blinked. Tried long distance? Yeah. I mean, people do it. We could figure it out. See each other. Call. Fly out. It's not like you're going to the moon. His lips twitched into a half smile. I don't even like flying. Then take the train. I don't care. We both paused. But, I said, only if you want to go. Don't make it about me. He looked at me for a long time, then he nodded. I'll think about it. I mean, really think about it. Not just panic and say yes or no out of fear. That was all I could ask. We ended the night quiet again. He stayed over, but we didn't chillin'. We just lay there in my bed, backs to each other, close but not touching. The air was thick with things neither of us could say yet. Over the next week, life moved forward like it always does. But everything felt slower. Sharper. More aware. Every text felt heavier. Every moment together felt like a countdown. He still hadn't made a decision. I didn't push him. But I could feel the clock ticking. We were on borrowed time now, and we both knew it. One night, we met at our usual bar, the same place we made the pact last New Year's. He slid into the booth across from me, hands in his hoodie pocket like he was hiding from the world. Déjà vu, I said, glancing around. He chuckled. Yeah, I was just thinking that. I sipped my drink. Remember the pact? How could I forget? He smiled, then reached across the table and laced his fingers through mine, something he'd never done here before. Not in public. I think we broke every rule, he said. I nodded. Pretty spectacularly. He held my gaze. I said yes. My heart skipped. What? The job, he said. I'm taking it. 1,000 emotions hit at once, fear, sadness, pride, love. But I didn't pull my hand away. And us? I asked. He squeezed my fingers gently. We're still us. Just long distance us. For now. And somehow I believed him. Somehow it felt like a beginning, not an ending. Drew moved 2 weeks later. It happened faster than I expected. One minute we were joking about how little he'd packed. Do I need more than 3 hoodies and my laptop? And the next, I was standing in his apartment, helping him carry out boxes and pretending I wasn't memorizing every corner of the place. We didn't cry. Neither of us are cry in front of each other people. But the heaviness hung around like a second presence in the room, something that didn't speak, just watched. The night before he left, he stayed over at mine. We didn't go out, didn't drink, didn't distract ourselves with a movie or pretend everything was casual. We just lay in bed, quiet, limbs tangled together like we were trying to remember every detail. His breath against my neck, my hand resting on his chest, feeling every beat. At one point he whispered, "This isn't the end." And I nodded, even though part of me didn't fully believe it yet. Because when someone leaves, even with good intentions, it still feels like a loss. The first week apart was brutal. Not for the reasons I expected. It wasn't that I missed having him in the apartment or next to me on the couch. I did, obviously. But the harder part was the adjustment. The quiet recalibration of everything. When we called, how often we texted, how much space we gave each other. We hadn't defined the rules of this new version of us, and the lack of structure left room for doubt. Was I supposed to call him every night? Was texting too much? Too much? Some nights I waited for his name to light up my screen. Other nights I debated sending a stupid meme and chickened out halfway through typing. We were still us. But now there was air between every word, space in every silence. The first time he visited back, it was weird. Not bad weird, just different. I picked him up from the train station. He hugged me before even saying hello, like he needed to confirm I was still solid, still real. We spent the weekend doing everything and nothing. Late breakfasts, city walks, a few too long kisses behind closed doors, but there was a tension too. A pressure neither of us wanted to name. On his last night before heading back, we sat on my fire escape, wrapped in a blanket. Beer bottles balanced precariously between our feet. He leaned his head on my shoulder. "I feel like we're waiting for something," he said. "Waiting for what?" "I don't know. The other shoe to drop. For this to stop working." I was quiet for a long time. "Maybe that's just what being in love feels like," I said eventually. "Like you're always a little bit terrified of losing it." His head lifted. "We're in love?" I smiled. "I mean, if you're not, I'm going to feel real dumb about what I just said." He laughed, quiet and warm. "I am," he said. "I'm in love with you. Scared shitless, but yeah." I looked at him. "I love you too." It didn't feel like fireworks. It didn't feel like the movies. It felt like breathing. Months passed. We settled into the new version of us. FaceTimes that lasted hours, shared Spotify playlists, Sunday morning routines where I drank coffee alone but with him on video, visiting each other every other weekend. One week, I surprised him by showing up on a Wednesday just because I couldn't wait another day. It wasn't always easy. Sometimes the silence hurt. Sometimes the calls were cut short. Sometimes I'd see couples holding hands on the train and feel a sharp pang of envy. But we kept choosing each other. And in a way, that mattered more than anything. A full year after our pact, we found ourselves back at the same bar, same table, same shitty drinks. Drew was in town for a few days, and we decided to relive the night it all began. He raised his glass. To the pact we completely failed to keep. I smirked. To the year we said we'd stay out of love and then did the exact opposite. He bumped his glass against mine. Best broken promise of my life. I leaned back, watching him laugh at something dumb I said, and I realized something I hadn't let myself fully feel before. We didn't survive in spite of breaking the pact. We survived because of it. Because we let ourselves feel. Because we stopped pretending. Because we finally stopped running from the thing we both wanted. And now that we had it, we weren't letting go. It's funny, thinking back on it now, how seriously we took the pact. How convinced we were that swearing off love would somehow protect us from heartbreak. Like it was love itself that did the damage, not the people we chose. Not the timing. Not the way we kept picking the wrong ones just because they burned bright. We made that pact like it was armor, like if we could just stop feeling, we'd stop getting hurt. But all it really did was delay the inevitable. Because the truth was, the feelings were already there. For me, they'd been there longer than I'd ever admit, probably since the first time Drew crashed on my couch, hair messy, feet hanging off the edge, and still somehow making it look like a five-star hotel bed. Probably since the first time he defended me in front of a group, without needing to be asked. Probably since the first time he made me laugh so hard I spilled beer out of my nose and he told me I was disgusting, but smiled like I was his favorite kind of gross. I just didn't let myself want it until we were already too far in. And I don't regret a second of that. Even the quiet, awkward nights. The waiting. The uncertainty. Because what we built wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished. But it was ours. 6 months after that bar night, our unofficial anniversary, I guess, Drew showed up at my door with a duffel bag and a sheepish grin. "Missed my train," he said. I blinked. "What?" He stepped inside, kissed me on the cheek. "I missed my train. D. C. It's great. Job's fine. But I'm tired of missing you more than I miss the city." I stared at him. "You're moving back?" "If you'll let me." He dropped the duffel with a thud. "Besides," he added, I hate Amtrak. I hate scheduling FaceTime calls. I hate the time delay when I want to tell you something and you're stuck in a meeting. I just want to be where you are, even if it means giving up the fancy job. I didn't say anything at first. I just walked over, hugged him tight, and said the only thing that made sense. Welcome home. Now? We still argue over dumb things. Laundry, groceries, whether to rewatch old sitcoms or try new movies. We still get on each other's nerves when we're sleep-deprived or hangry. We still talk about that pact sometimes, laughing about how seriously we took it. But the truth is, I'm glad we broke it. I'm glad we made the mistake of thinking we could keep feelings out of it. Because what came next wasn't a mistake, it was a choice. One we make every day.